have to excuse me. I'm a little nasally. I'm getting over a cold, but I'm getting ready to try to explain to you the difference between black and white. The differences between legal statuses in America. We do have a caste system here. We don't have a caste system within its citizens, but we do have a caste system because everybody isn't a citizen. And so citizens versus non-citizens do become a caste system. We're going to show you how we were able to put ourselves, or how it happened, and from my research, immediately when the Englishmen came over, status was immediately followed, because everybody that wasn't an Englishman, a national of England, was somebody else. And so immediately there becomes a status difference, an Englishman versus a non-Englishman. And then when slavery became their legal thing, slave was another status. So we're going to start with the United States Declaration of Independence, because this is at the moment where, when they first came over, they were Englishmen. They became Britain while the colonies were here, and so they became British citizens. And then they had a war with Great Britain. And during this war, they announced their independence. And so at this moment, 1776, the people who call themselves American were outlaws. And the reason why they printed a document, a Declaration of Independence, this is the first country to ever do so, it's because they were trying to appeal to the League of Nations to recognize them as a separate body. But at this time, they are outlaws, and they really don't have a country yet, because they don't have a constitution or a set of rules, which actually other countries didn't even have. But they felt it necessary to come up with a set of rules to go by the law as much as they can and establish themselves legally, to really appeal to the League of Nations that, we are a legal body. We want to be accepted as a legal body. And because we have land and we have resources here, trading with us is going to be valuable to you guys. And so because we want to establish ourselves, trade with other nations, become a part of the League of Nations, we're trying to present our best. We're trying to put on our cleanest suit as some rebels to bargain for our acceptance. And so 1776, they were no longer citizens of the planet at this time. And then until 1789, the Constitution being ratified, at those moments, they really weren't recognized as citizens of the planet. They were outlaws. At the same time, I argue that some of the slaves that they freed, and the legal status of free black, was introduced to the planet. When they became outlaws, or free whites, free blacks and free whites was in the same legal position as not being citizens of the planet anywhere. And so let's take a little cheat sheet at exactly what I'm arguing are the legal statuses of America. The bottom one, number 4, is a slave. This is a legal status. And slavery was never fully abolished because crime is a form of slavery now. And so it's never gone anywhere. You can still be a slave. Next is free black. And it says citizen nowhere, because there is no country of free black. There is no citizenship of free black. We're going to argue that also, that citizens, free blacks are not citizens of America. Then you have citizens of a recognized nation, for example, Native American or Asian. And then the top status of America is a free white. That is a full-fledged citizen of America, not just a legal status like free black, but free white citizen of America. So these are not colors. Anybody can be any of these status if you choose to, because they're also voluntary and nobody is born them. Now, the beginning of the status of America, the different statuses or the caste system or class system in America, I believe starts in the Naturalization Act of 1790. Immediately after they ratified their Constitution, they had to define who was a citizen and who wasn't. And in 1790, the first rule of citizenship was that you had to be free white. You had to represent the free white legal status. Not a slave, which is a legal status. They appear in our law. Not a free black. They appear in our law also. We recognize, as Englishmen, we freed some slaves and they were free. And so free black is a status that we recognize. But the top, in order to be a citizen here, you have to have the free white status. And now, because we recognize on this land that there are other people, we made sure to exclude. We could have put them in the law, but we didn't. American Indians, they not a part of our crew. Indentured servants, slaves, free blacks, and Asians. And this is another point I like to make. We like to mix these two terms, slaves and free blacks. These are not the same people. A slave is a slave, and it didn't matter what color you were. That's a condition. Blacks is another condition, another federal legal status. And so one could not be black and a slave at the same time. You can't have the same status at once. You can only be one or the other. The example of this is here in the Emancipation Proclamation. In 1790, there were probably a couple hundred free blacks, people who were freed from slavery. It wasn't a popular thing to do because it was profit involved. These people worked for you for free, and so you wouldn't want to be freeing a whole lot of them because it affects your bottom line. But the first stroke that made millions of blacks was this one in the Emancipation Proclamation. This says 3 million enslaved. Watch this. It changed the federal legal status of more than 3 million. What did it change it from? Slave to free. Free what? Free black. You went from slave to free black. So you wasn't black when you was a slave. You might have been dark skinned, but you wasn't black when you was a slave. And so this is right here is one of those, moments where when we start to tell our own history and we start commingling legal statuses, we really do ourselves an injustice, because you was a dark-skinned slave, but slavery came in all the colors on the planet. Free black is a different federal legal status, and 1863 proves that you couldn't have been black and a slave. You couldn't have been, because you went from slave to free black. In 1863, this is the first time you've had millions of blacks ever in the history of the planet, that you have a million blacks. This was done in the Emancipation Proclamation. Before, a few hundred, maybe a couple thousand people had freed their slaves. Now, this was not popular legislation. And so to counter this legislation, we got the black codes. 1863, they emancipated you. Already the southern states started to take advantage of this new position. This created millions, went from number 4 to number 3. Guess what else it did? It created opportunity for the South to come up with some special codes. Black codes, laws passed by the southern states, intent on restricting African Americans. That wasn't even the term that used at the time. But what they want to say is free blacks or freedmen. But Black Code 6566, 4 million new federal legal status who we didn't even really have a lot of laws for. And so this also created opportunity for us to create, look, they say devise. I like how they say that, because that seems conniving. Devise special state laws and codes for many Northerners. So this as a blatant attempt. Are these laws for the citizens? No. Oh, because citizens are up here in free white. Not just a people, this is a legal status. Free blacks, these new people who went from here to here, are not citizens yet. And so because they didn't go from here to here, number one, they didn't go from there to there. They went from here to here. Now we can devise some special codes for these people. This is called state law. Just for our new legal status people. They call themselves the blacks. The free blacks. This created opportunity for us. So then comes the 13th Amendment. And all it did was outlaw slavery. It abolished slavery and involuntary, so you can't make me a slave. I can't be born a slave no more. Then comes 14th Amendment. This was a serious amendment, because it say that you born a citizen. And that's very important, that you born a citizen. And let me go to something else, the Civil Rights Act. Civil Rights Act 1866. So let's look at the timeline now. 1863, we created 4 million new status people who we call the free blacks. They're not citizens nowhere, but they occupy this legal status. But what we got to do is, the North understood. This is a battle between the North and the South now. What we understand is we got to come up with a law, 1866, to combat the black codes that started in 1865 through 1866. So immediately I'm coming right back at you. This is war law. And say all persons now. All persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed. If every time somebody give you a form and they ask you who you are, and you say you Native American or free black or Asian, are you giving allegiance to a foreign power? Because in this country, free white means citizen of America. And so if you're not hitting free white, then you're not a citizen. You giving your allegiance to something else. One of these other ones. So they say all persons in the United States, without doing no funny stuff with no foreign people saying that you something else, are declared to be citizens here. You was born free white. That's what the law is saying. Because if the law was to give citizenship to blacks, I wasn't going to grant this the category stay where it is. You can still be free black. We didn't make it outlaw. We didn't outlaw this. You can be that. You can be a citizen of somewhere else and give your allegiance to something else. We understand that you were over here. But citizen of America means free white. This is what your citizenship means. It is a different federal status. And so everybody that if you're born here, you are born free and white. If you give your allegiance to something else, then you negate your citizenship. And now you become another federal legal status, and we got laws and stuff for these other federal legal statuses. We started doing these different laws back here, right after, we call them the black codes. Right after y'all came with this new status that put all of these millions of people, new people on our doorsteps, these states was like, oh, all right, we got y'all. We're going to come up with these color of law, these statutes, these regulations, these ordinances that really ain't laws for the citizens. It's for these other statuses that you put on our doorstep. And since they ain't citizens, and none of these laws have nothing to do with the citizens, but this state law that you feds can't even touch, you put them on our doorstep. Now we going to enforce our own laws on them. The feds say, okay, that was a smooth move. Then y'all come with your black codes. Man, black codes was killing us. Somebody help us. Somebody give us citizenship so we can get out of this black. Because these black codes, because these codes are the North couldn't have won the war if you gonna let these people come up with these special codes that bring slavery back on. You ain't even winning. You losing. You failing us. All right. 1866 Civil Rights Act. Now I'm saying that if you born here, you a citizen. You was born white. Now you got to maintain it. And as such citizens, whites of every race and color, meaning it don't matter what race and color you are, when you a citizen, when you say that I'm this, when you say that you are free and white, you are a full-fledged legal citizen of America. And when you have your citizenship, protect you. It don't matter what race or color you are. You are now the top status. You are white. It don't even matter what your previous condition of slavery was. When you accept whiteness, the free white legal status, I know it may sound like I'm making some bold statements here, because if this diagram holds true, then free blacks are not citizens here. We probably don't even really have no voting rights or nothing. It's a sham. Not because we weren't offered citizenship. It started in 1866, then followed by the 14th Amendment. The sad thing is that we didn't understand, just like when we left slave to free black, that was one federal status. We moved to another one. We didn't understand that we were supposed to move from free black to this one, courtesy of the 14th Amendment, and before it, the 1866 Civil Rights Act. Its intent was to change your legal status, but you had to accept it. And when you accepted it, you became a white citizen, as enjoyed by white citizens. You become a white citizen, a different federal legal status. And here is where they was trying to show you how they're trying to protect you from black codes. Watch the protection that they put in this to protect you from black codes. Any person who under the color of law, this mean citizens, these black codes were not for citizens. But if somebody try to, once you take your whiteness, if somebody try to enforce a black code on you, some color of law, a statute, a ordinance, a regulation, or a custom, nah. They try to deprivate your rights. $1,000 or imprisonment, or both. If somebody try to give you different punishment, just because you had a time where you've been held in condition of slavery or involuntary servitude, or somebody trying to use the reason of your color or race, once you accept whiteness, nah, they owe you. We feel like that's not right. So I don't care if it's a police officer, I don't care if it's a judge, I don't care what, because that's a person who is under the color of law, a statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, all these things you made up in these black codes and your segregation and all of these things. Nah. If you a citizen, we don't play that. Bring that stuff, look, in number 3 to the district court. We got you. Now, I'm making a bold statement. I'm saying that it is a caste system, a class system here. And slave to black, but black and free white cannot never be the same thing. That's why it's 2 different categories, and it's really not about color. It's about federal legal status, and anybody can be white. Why do I say that? Because it say here, if you want to believe in that race or color, okay, cool. and such citizens. But once you become a citizen, a free white, it don't matter what, every race and color. Once you become free white, it don't matter any race or color. Hold on, watch this. And see, if they'd have put that up there, you'd have been like, oh, okay. No, see, they playing games in the law, but you got to be able to understand what they're saying. As a free white, this federal legal citizen, those such citizens of every race or color, if you want to believe in all of that. And I don't care whether you was in bondage, slavery or not. You born here, you don't have no allegiance to nobody else. But it does not say in here that this federal position is a citizen. Nowhere in there do it say black. Blacks are citizens. It says you were born a citizen. So when you hit black, you are saying I'm not a citizen. I know I was born a citizen, but I decide that I want to be this legal status of black. That you can't say that I'm not a black if I want to be one, even though I was born a citizen and I could have maintained my citizenship. I'm saying I'm a free black. I'm not. I'm a citizen nowhere. Let's look at a federal form. Revised 2005. Let's go back. It's called Standard Form SF 181. Let's check it out. Because it's defining the racial categories. You say racial categories. I say federal legal statuses. You say racial categories. I say federal legal status. Let's see. Are you an American Indian, Alaskan Native, one of them? Person having, look, original peoples. Ooh, that's interesting. Original peoples. Okay, so I recognize that you a native of a country that's recognized original peoples. Okay. Asian. Hold on. Let me just see something real quick. My federal legal status is Native American in there. Yeah, a citizen recognized of a recognized nation. For example, American Native. Okay, so far so good. Okay, Asian, original peoples. Again, I see that again. So that means that I recognize you and your status. Let's go back to my legal status here. Or Asian. Okay, bam. So far so good. Okay, now black or African American. Do it say original people? I don't see it. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Ooh. I freed slaves. Because it don't say original people. So they not looking at, okay, hold on, let me go back to my, all right, because I did have free black under citizens of a recognized nation like Native Americans or Asians. I did put them under, because when we said free black, it didn't say original people, and so they are, I guess they saying the same things, that they not citizens of nowhere. Ain't no black land, no black country. I don't know nothing about the law don't know anything about that. You not an original person. Hit it and you telling me that's who you are. All right, let me go back to it. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific, because we took over Hawaii. This has had to be added to the form because we had to allow the people whose land we took. I can't force you to say that you're not who you were before I came. If you was a Native Hawaiian and you want to still have allegiance to that, that's who you are. I'm okay with that. But you was, as far as I'm concerned, you was born a citizen, and if you take it, if you accept your whiteness, I'm talking about the legal status of white. then you become a citizen of America. All right. But you don't have to be. And so that's why your category is here, because you have a choice in this. Then white. White is the person that have any original peoples. Okay. Europe. How many people know that the Middle Easterners are white? Yep. And Africa. Okay. So even if you say you African and you wanted to be an original person also, then the only category that has Africa and original people in it is the category of white, the citizens. The citizens, free white citizens. All right. So as long as you saying that you ain't no foreign person, that you ain't one of them free blacks or one of them natives or Asians, and you born here and you say and you take your citizenship and you declare your whiteness, then you are a citizen here and all the laws protect you. Now, let's put this to use in some real law, because now I done made this big old, I'm jumping out there. Let's look at something like, come on, Plessy versus Ferguson. The date is 1896, after these acts were passed. Plessy attempted to sit in an all-white railroad car. All right, now, as far as my legal statuses of America is concerned, that railroad car was for a citizen. Why? Because the federal legal status of white is citizen. Free black, the states done started making their own laws for them since 1865, and here we in Plessy versus Ferguson. This is 1896. The states done had a whole lot of fun coming up with all of these different. The Act of 1866 say they call them color of law, statutes, ordinance, regulations, customs, codes. All of that fake law for the non-citizens. That's what they said in this act. That's how I read it. Anybody try and hit you with the color of law? Okay, Plessy say, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm refusing. I refuse to sit in the black railway car. Now, if Plessy say, I ain't black, oh man, we might have had something here. So Plessy was arrested. But Plessy said, you know what? I ain't no dumb nigga. I'm out there. I got something for y'all. I can read a little bit. I am going to use the 13th and 14th Amendment. So watch this. Plessy was found guilty. And that the law was reasonable. A reasonable exercise of the state policing power. Now watch this. Plessy laws. At the trial, the justice said that Plessy was found guilty on the grounds that the law was a reasonable exercise of the state's policing powers based upon custom. Hold on. Because this right here told us that the customs, statutes, and all of that is the laws for the non-citizens. And so if Plessy versus Ferguson is saying that they upheld the custom and they saying that the special police can do that, it's only because it was one of these laws that was made for this status And when you call yourself that, I can't protect you. Sorry, Plessy. So Plessy filed a petition. He said that it stigmatized blacks. It made them the inferior. These laws made them inferior by law, and they are in violation. Listen, Plessy said this is in violation. Now Plessy ain't he ain't no stupid. Look, Plessy said this is in violation of the 13th and the 14th Amendment. But listen, he said he asserted that the segregation stigmatized blacks. Now listen, I'm arguing if Plessy would have said dark-skinned whites who were formerly slaves, he didn't say that. He said it stigmatized blacks. Let's go back to the chart. These people. Then he tried to quote the 13th and 14th Amendment, which we know were made for citizens. Hold on, let's go back to the chart. These people. Is Plessy going to get away with trying to use laws for the citizens as a defense for somebody that's in this legal status? Is the Supreme Court going to let them get away with it? Let's see. The issue, can states constitutionally enact legislation requiring persons of different races to use separate but equal segregation facilities? Okay. They saying, can you stop us from making our special codes for the new status of people who call themselves the free blacks? Can you infringe upon my state law that I use to define how I want the free blacks to operate in my state? Can you, the Supreme Court, come in and challenge me on what I can do in my own state with my free blacks? Okay, shoot. That's a serious question to ask. Can the states constitutionally enact their own legislation to separate the citizens? We want to separate the citizens from the free blacks. This is what our state is doing. And can you find that unconstitutional? That I'm separating my citizens from these new federal legal status blacks? The Holden Rule. Yes, the states can constitutionally enact legislation requiring persons of different races. You say races, I say federal legal status. Yeah, you can do that. You can separate them. That is not unconstitutional. Because these laws are not for the citizens. These laws are for the free blacks. This different federal legal status that are not my amendment, 14th Amendment, and my 1866 Civil Rights Act. They don't protect them. They protect citizens. All right, watch this. Let's see why the 13th Amendment didn't work. Now watch this. It say the statute does not conflict with the 13th Amendment. Okay. Let's go here. We know that statutes are in the same category as color of law, ordinance, regulations, and customs. The Supreme Court is saying we are really mixing public and private here. The 13th Amendment is for the citizens, one. Actually, I take that back. The statute, the statute does not conflict with the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. So it did impact the people who call themselves black because it created a new federal status of millions of people who call themselves the free blacks now. But this don't protect no free blacks. It just makes sure that slavery can't be against your will anymore. It in the issue of the 13th Amendment, it recognizes that they're giving you these crappy laws that are really stopping you. They say curtailing your rights to pursuit of life, liberty. We understand that. And so if you got a grievance about that, how these laws are affecting you, go to the 14th Amendment. That's fair. That's a fair Supreme Court. The Supreme Court saying you can't use the 13th Amendment here. All that did was change you from slave, and really the Emancipation Proclamation did that, but it just really outlawed involuntary servitude. Nobody can make you a slave anymore. But that don't really address the issue that you brought to the court. So go to the 14th Amendment. That's really the one that's supposed to help you out. That's where you'll find your remedy. Or you're supposed to find your remedy. Even though your first mistake, I'm arguing, is that you came and made it as a black. So let's go to the 14th Amendment and see what's wrong with that. Because we can't use the 13th. It really don't deal with your issue. But let's go with the 14th. They start off by giving you what the 14th is all about. It say citizen so many times in here. Let's count how many times it say it. They saying that everybody here was born white, but you got to maintain your citizenship. Are citizens, one. And then all of the law, privileges, immunity is for the citizens. Again, two. And that no state shall deprive any person of their life, liberty, and property without due process of law. Equal protection in the laws. I mean, they going to tell you what it's all about. And we understand why you came here, because this right here ain't saying that it's equal. This if you feeling like you got an equality problem, I understand why you came here, because ain't no law or nothing should be able to deprive a citizen. And by using this law, we understand. But let's go right here. It was intended to enforce absolute equality. Can you have absolute equality and still have some people who call themselves this when they should be calling themselves this? The law offered you free whiteness. You had to accept it. Then you would have had absolute equality of the two races. Absolute into one. Look, it was intended to abolish distinctions based upon color. What's the best way to abolish distinctions? Is to have one color, white, because white means citizen. And so if you only got one color, you abolish the distinctions. You don't have to be this no more. This, nope, did away with that. This, you don't got to be that no more. We just gave you the law that they gave you the opportunity to be this. I can't make you, because this is a federal legal status, and I can't make you not be that. But I can offer you this. I could even tell you was born it, but you just got to maintain it. All right. Or to enforce social equality, or commingling of the two terms. Okay, listen. Or a commingling of the two races upon terms unsatisfactory to either. They're saying right here that if you want absolute equality, you can't have the two terms also. They are unsatisfactory to each other. free black and free white are two different federal legal status, and they are unsatisfactory to each other. If we're going to try to explain our law, we can't be mixing public and private. And to have an interracial an interracial marriage, that's mixing citizen law and this law for these free blacks, this public law, these statute and ordinances. And we really, for our booking and purposes, and for us to keep our systems and our books correct, and to make some order within our system, to have some law, we got to keep these two separate. And so these are the reasons why separate with equal and segregation was necessary, because they had to keep a distinction between the two. Plessy versus Ferguson. Plessy lost because he tried to use these laws that was intent. They're telling you it was intended for you to leave this federal status and come to this one. But because you didn't act, and you trying to use these, you trying to keep your label, that federal status is unsatisfactory to us, commingling of these terms. Then it say laws permitting and even requiring the separation in places they are liable to be brought into contact do not necessarily imply inferiority to the races. It don't necessarily imply the inferiority of the race, of the quote unquote people, but it does have an inferiority of legal status. Such laws have generally been recognized as within the scope of the state's policing powers. Hold on. What we call these? Special state law codes. You can't use this law if you're going to be a black, if you're going to bring it to us as a black. If you would have accepted your whiteness, you could have used this to protect you. But because you didn't, I can't help you. You are black. You can't use this law. Now we got to have a separateness because you're not a citizen. And so we might be free. You free white, I'm free black. We equal in our freeness. We equal there, but we separate in our legal status. And this is why the judgment, Plessy loses. Ferguson wins because Plessy came in as a black and tried to argue the case as a black and not as a citizen. And because he wasn't a citizen, this is why he loses. Man, this is a case of how we've used our legal status chart here to prove, and case law to prove, that free blacks have the opportunity, still do, were born free white. But when they chose, like racial categories, they're choosing their federal legal status instead of choosing to be a citizen and hitting white. You're choosing allegiance to something else that does not equal a citizen. And so your laws are different, and you can't use 14th Amendment, the 13th Amendment, and all of the laws for the citizens in your defense. And Plessy versus Ferguson is a perfect case to show why.